Imagine a child vanishing without a trace, his bicycle left on the sidewalk, the evening air heavy with unanswered questions. For days, the search spread across the city. Posters taped to lampposts, police combing through forests, neighbors whispering behind closed doors. Every hour stretched into agony for the boy's family. But the truth wasn't hiding in some far-off place. It was waiting in the shadows, disturbingly close, just beyond their own walls. What investigators finally uncovered would shock the entire neighborhood and reveal a betrayal more chilling than anyone imagined. Don't miss out on the next chilling mystery. Hit subscribe and tap the bell icon so you're the first to know when new stories drop. It began on what seemed like an ordinary evening in a quiet suburban neighborhood. Children played in driveways, parents watered lawns, and the fading glow of the sun painted the streets in soft amber light. Among them was an 8-year-old boy, a boy full of energy, whose laughter often echoed across the block. He was known by everyone, a familiar face who seemed safe in the predictable rhythm of the community. But as twilight deepened, that rhythm was shattered. His bicycle, once a blur of motion, now lay abandoned on the curb. No sign of him, no sound of his playful voice. At first, neighbors assumed he had gone inside, but when his family began calling his name into the night air, unease spread quickly. By the next morning, the neighborhood no longer felt ordinary. Police cars lined the streets, officers moved door to door, and anxious parents clutched their children a little tighter. The search stretched outward to nearby parks, wooded trails, and busy intersections. Still, nothing. Behind closed doors, whispers began. Had someone taken him? Could a stranger have slipped through the safety of their suburban bubble? Or was the answer closer, more unsettling, hidden among the very people offering to help? As detectives canvassed the neighborhood, one home stood out, not because of what was seen, but because of what wasn't. Curtains always drawn. A neighbor quick to answer questions, yet strangely reluctant to let anyone inside. The sense of safety was gone. In its place, suspicion grew, turning a once ordinary street into the stage for a nightmare no one could have imagined. Search for the missing boy intensified. Officers coordinated grids, volunteers combed nearby woods, and helicopters swept the sky with blinding spotlights. His pictures circulated across the city, on news broadcasts, in convenience stores, and pinned to community boards. Strangers called in with tips that led nowhere. Every dead end made the neighborhood feel smaller, tighter, more suffocating. Detectives began retracing every step the boy had taken that evening. They spoke with his family, classmates, and neighbors, trying to piece together a timeline. Some remember hearing his laughter just before sundown. Others thought they saw him pedaling down the block. But then the trail seemed to vanish into silence. The neighborhood, once united, began to fray under suspicion. Parents who had once trusted each other now cast nervous glances across their lawns. One neighbor swore they had seen a suspicious car idling at the end of the street. Another insisted a stranger had been walking near the playground days earlier. Theories multiplied, but evidence did not. And yet, police grew increasingly unsettled by one house on the block. It belonged to a quiet man in his 30s, someone who blended easily into the neighborhood, but rarely socialized. He was polite when approached, even joining search efforts. But detectives noted something peculiar. His curtains remained drawn at all hours. His porch light flickered inconsistently, and when an officer casually asked to step inside, he deflected with a nervous smile. Still, without proof, suspicion was just that, suspicion. The investigation shifted to your broader possibilities. Perhaps the boy had been lured away by someone he met online. Perhaps he had wandered farther than expected and fallen victim to an accident in the nearby forest. Each theory carried a chilling possibility, but none explained the silence, the absence of any trace. Then came the dogs. Specially trained units were brought in to track the boy's scent. For hours, they sniffed through wooded trails, vacant lots, and alleyways. The trail seemed to fade until the dogs turned back, circling closer to the very street where the search had begun. Handlers reported the animals pausing near the quiet man's driveway, noses pressed to the concrete, bodies tense. Detectives exchanged glances but held back. They couldn't act on instinct alone. Still, the unease was undeniable. The boy's scent shouldn't have led back here, shouldn't have returned to the very place where everyone believed he had vanished. As the hours bled into days, tension reached a breaking point. The family pleaded publicly for answers, their grief raw and visible. The neighborhood locked its doors earlier each night, and in the midst of it all, that single house remained closed off, its windows dark, its silence louder than any noise. The mystery was no longer about where the boy had gone. It was about how close the truth might already be, and why no one had dared to see it. The breakthrough came not from high-tech forensics, but from persistence. Detectives returned to the quiet man's home with a simple request: a second interview. This time, they pressed harder. His answers faltered, his composure slipped. And when they asked again about the night the boy disappeared, something in his eyes gave way. With a warrant in hand, officers finally stepped through his front door. What they found was the revelation no one in the neighborhood could have imagined. The missing boy, alive, was there, hidden inside the man's apartment. He had been concealed in a locked room, just steps away from the frantic search outside. The walls were bare, the curtains sealed tight, the air heavy with the silence of days stolen from him. Neighbors stood frozen as word spread. The very man who had joined their search, who had nodded sympathetically and promised to keep an eye out, had been harboring the boy all along. The betrayal cut deep, not just because of what he had done, but because of how close he had been the entire time. For the boy's family, the moment was a collision of relief and horror. Relief that he was alive, horror at what he had endured behind those drawn curtains. For the community, the illusion of safety shattered forever. Evil, they realized, had not come from some shadowy outsider. It had been hiding in plain sight. In the months that followed, the neighborhood tried to stitch itself back together, but the seams never truly held. The man at the center of it all was sentenced to decades behind bars, his quiet mask stripped away to reveal the predator beneath. Today, he sits in a concrete cell, a shadow of the neighbor everyone once waved to, without a second thought. The boy survived, but survival carries its own scars. He rarely speaks about what happened. His silence a weight heavier than words. Therapists work with him, slowly, patiently, yet those who know him say his childhood innocence was stolen in that locked room. His family remains protective, building a new life while always carrying the echo of those missing days. Neighbors still drive past the house where it happened. Some avoid looking at it altogether, while others can't help but stare at the drawn curtains that never seem to open. The property sits empty now, a reminder of how safety can be an illusion and how danger can live just steps away. For many, the unanswered question lingers. How long could this have gone on if detectives hadn't pressed harder? How many times had they smiled at him in passing, never knowing what he was hiding? The case may be closed, but the unease it left behind still lingers in every shadow of that street. The story of the missing boy serves as a reminder of how fragile the illusion of safety can be. A neighborhood that once felt ordinary, predictable, even comforting, became the backdrop for one of its darkest truths. That sometimes the greatest dangers are not distant strangers, but the people we believe we know best. The boy's return brought relief, but it also left behind scars no one could see from the outside. His family lives with the knowledge that trust was shattered so close to home. The neighbors live with the memory of how easily they were deceived by a man who waved politely, offered help, and blended seamlessly into their lives. The house itself has become a symbol, a silent monument to the questions that may never be answered. Why did he do it? How long had he been planning it? Could anyone have stopped him sooner? Those who walk past its darkened windows cannot help but wonder how many secrets still hide behind closed doors, waiting to be uncovered. And so the case lingers in memory, not just as a story of disappearance and discovery, but as a chilling reflection of how quickly trust can dissolve, and how close evil can truly be. Because if danger could live just one wall away from this family, how well do we really know the people living next to us? With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.